Hey, it's attorney Peter Olson, Chicago Family Law Group. Happy Friday. Just back from court on a beautiful Friday afternoon in Chicago. And here you go. Ready? The top four reasons to file your custody or parentage case. That's what we call them when you have unmarried parents. So ready? Here are the top four reasons you really should do this. Do it yourself, do it with us, do it with another attorney. But if you have kids and you're not married, you need to get a case on file, okay? Um, Top four reasons, right? In old David Letterman fashion. I couldn't think of 10. I'm sure there are 10, but I don't think people would be watching through number three or four. So I kept it at four. Ready? Top four reasons to file your custody or parentage case, okay? And here's the intro before I get to number one. I'm attorney Peter Olson, Chicago Family Law Group. We're at familylawchicago.com. There's that little promo. But here's the other trigger, right? We do two things and two things only as a law firm. We represent people in cases exactly like the ones I'm about to talk about, unmarried parents, where you have children, you're not married, and you're still dealing with all the child-related issues like decision-making, custody, parenting time, visitation, and financial support of the child. That's one type of case we do. The only other type of case we do would be a divorce, where you're doing the exact same things, but then sometimes you're fighting about, how to divide a house, how to divide, 401k plan, and, financial issues, right? You have property financial issues and child-related issues in a divorce, whereas in an unmarried situation, you only have, the child-related stuff. But here's the deal, and here's what I've found in doing this for 16 years is when you're talking about divorce and you're talking about people who are married, there seems to be a better understanding or just the idea that, hey, if I want to end this marriage to this jerk who's abusing me, I need to go to court to do that. And in that context, right, you're going to court to divorce this scumbag. Then you're also obviously dealing with the child-related stuff at the same time. And so what we have seen just as the MO in doing this a long time is that those cases tend to have court-ordered stuff happen, structure, etc. Because I think it's just sort of like more culturally known that I want to get divorced, I have to go to court to do it, and then you're going to deal with child-related stuff because you're in court anyways, okay? What we find much more frequently with unmarried parents is they just don't go to court on this stuff. And then it becomes this free-for-all and this horrible situation for parents and children. And that's what I'm really passionate about avoiding. And that's where I'm going with this list is when you have children and you're not married, you still need to go to court, even if you're not getting divorced, okay? And here are the top four reasons why. Ready? Here we go. Number one, more structure equals less stress for you, father, mother, and probably, you're not thinking about this, but most importantly, your child. And, it's not rocket science. Child, that court-ordered schedule is something that now me as little Johnny knows that on Friday afternoon, I'm going to my mom's until Monday morning. And so now I have less stress. I have less anxiety because every Friday afternoon until Monday morning, I'm going to see mom. I'm going to hang out at her house. I'm going to see my stepbrother and my stepdad and my friends in that neighborhood where my mom lives. And that's great. And I look forward to it. And most importantly, it kind of eases my stress, my anxiety level, because I know when that's happening. And I also know I'm going to school on Monday. And then on Monday afternoon, I'm going back to dad's house. Okay. So that's a huge, huge stress relief for a child. You need to look at, and I know, the studies and the research on just kind of like anxiety during childhood just is a dramatic negative impact on somebody's life. You want your kid to be kind of a stressed out, anxious person for the rest of their life? Because I know those people, and I bet you do too, who are just really anxious adults. And a lot of times it went back to stuff like this. There was a lot of insecurity and anxiety in their childhood, and now they're 60 and they're still nervous and anxious. So that's the biggest reason right there to file your custody or parentage case is um, the structure and the less stress for the child. And hey, hint, or I guess little statement as somebody who's done this a lot, these cases don't have to be that hard. The perception I think out there, and I think an objection sometimes potential clients have with us is they think it's going to be this huge, difficult fight. Not true. A lot of these are a lot more easy than you think because once somebody gets into court, I think they kind of, it dawns on them, hey, some of this structure and less stress for everybody is better for me too, the opposing party. Um, so I'm putting that out there too. I mean, I could just tell you some examples of just recent cases of ours where, um, it's like once the case got into court, it was simple. It was, a couple court dates and agreed order, and the whole thing's done. Okay. So that's my number one reason why you should file your custody parentage case. Less stress, more structure equals less stress. Ready? Number two, avoid the grab and run. Avoid the grab and run. That might be number one, but I put it as number two. If there's not a court order with parenting time, custody, if any of that stuff's set out, in other words, you just have free for all. There's a legal father and a legal mother on the birth certificate, but no court order setting forth stuff. The reality is, dad can show up one day at the kid's school and take that kid to California, and good luck getting him back. That happened to us not that long ago. A client of ours. This guy had been the majority time parent. Clearly, like he's doing everything for these kids. He allowed the mom to have some winter break parenting time, even though there was no court ordered structure. And she took off. She took off. My recollection, it was to Mississippi. And, we got those kids back, but we got those kids back with an emergency order of protection with this guy running down to Mississippi using the sheriff's office in some county in Mississippi. And I'm just saying it wasn't that easy. So that's the number one or the number two in my list of reason to do your parentage custody cases. If you don't have that, if you don't have a court order, the reality is at any time the other parent can take off. That's the reality. The grab and run. We get multiple grab and run calls every week. I have a client right now where they've kind of hired us and now we're doing some stuff. And half the motivation, I think, is basically a threat by the other parent to take off to, I don't know, her mom or grandma who lives in Alabama when my client, this guy, is actively involved in his daughter's life here in Chicago. So more structure equals less stress. Best reason. Number two reason, avoid the grab and numb. Here's a number three. You see more and more. I feel like we serve a lot of clients who are maybe first or second generation Americans. And, we have a fair amount of Latino clients. I speak Spanish. Some of our staff speak Spanish. So, we have a lot of Spanish speaking clients. And because of that, right, just like I have extended family in other parts of the United States, I'm not a first or second generation American, but in a lot of, if I'm Mexican, it's probably more likely my relatives who are in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I think it's probably, more likely if I'm a Mexican American, I might have some parents or grandparents in Mexico. That's a very common fact situation for us. And so, right, it's very typical to travel to see extended family. So just like when I'm going to Marquette, Michigan, a couple times a year to see some relatives, if my extended family's in Mexico City, Mexico, I'm probably going to Mexico City, Mexico instead of Marquette, Michigan. And you know what? If I have a child and I'm not married to the other parent, I need something via court order that says I have the ability to travel. More importantly, I have the ability to get a passport for my son or daughter. So that's really the quick point number 3 is if it's a free for all and there's nothing in court with regards to custody or more narrowly the ability of a parent to get a passport, um, I'm not going to Mexico. I might be going, but little Johnny is not going with me to Mexico City to see his grandparents. Okay? So that's reason number 3 is you need it in court to get a passport so your kid can travel, to get the minor child's passport. Okay? Number 3. It sounds easy, but challenge is you're dealing with an entire kind of different government system, right? You're dealing with federal government, State Department, Immigration and Naturalization Services that, basically they have hard and fast requirements about what is necessary for a minor child's passport to be issued or renewed. Okay. I think I have another whole video on our channel about that issue, how, the passport issue specifically. Okay. That's number 3. Let's talk number 4. Here's a financial reason. It's a good preemptive move to file a case in the parentage custody setting, unmarried setting, to protect yourself against retroactive child support. Okay. In the unmarried parent situation, I can file a case and get retroactive child support to the date of birth against that other parent. We have a case right now where, well, let me give you we have a new client who's got that exact situation. But you understand what I'm saying here? And this happens. The state comes in and files a child support enforcement collection case against guys way oftentimes. And, kids 15, 16 years old, and oh, well, the statute allows for it. We're going to ask for 15 years of child support. And if it's been a free for all with child support and nothing in court before, the reality is that's a big, big threat. Is it likely they're going to get that full 15 or 16 years? I don't think it's really likely. Most judges I see are not given really all the way back to date of birth these days when you have an older child. But I'm definitely seeing people get a few years. And sometimes you can go back to date of birth. And just the threat of that is huge. Let me give you an example, a real story we had. We had that exact case where the state tries to do, the 15 or 16 years, and basically they're trying to do, what are they trying to get? I mean, it was over $100,000 against this guy. And so just that threat, it's like, we're not doing, this guy cannot afford to get whacked with a $125,000 judgment against him. So, ultimately, and we thought this was a good resolution, we settled on some 2 or 3 year deal where, he had to pay 6-8 grand or something. So even that, it's real money. That's a significant amount of, dollars. So, I mean, but why did we settle? We settled because of this huge threat. It's like we can't afford this guy to get 125 grand against him. So, okay, 6 to 9 isn't great, but that's not going to kill me. Whereas 125 grand, you're never getting out from under that. So, reason number 4 then is basically to stop the retroactive child support case in its tracks. In other words, stop that idea that sometime in the future a retroactive child support case is going to, show up on your doorstep. If you just file a case a week from now, you set child support, that's done. In other words, I set child support 2 weeks from now, and it's just, $500 a month, and it starts on June 1st. All of that stuff is done. once and for all, the idea that somebody's coming back for 150 grand in retroactive child support is simply off the table. Okay. Huge, huge financial risk if you don't bring a case into court. So let's recap the top 4 reasons to file your custody or parentage case when you're unmarried with children. Ready? All of these are huge reasons for you and your kids. More structure equals less stress. Number one, more structure, structured court ordered stuff equals less stress for your child and yourself. Number two, the grab and run is a huge risk. If there's not court ordered stuff, the reality is either parent can grab and run at any time and there's not much you can do about it. Or, if you're doing something, it's hard and it's sort of after the fact versus just getting in front of it where it takes the risk away big time. Okay, stop the grab and run. Number 3, passport. You want to travel to Mexico, you want to travel to Russia, you want to travel to Canada with your kid, you need a passport, and you can't get a passport unless you have sole custody or a court order that specifically allows you to get the minor child's passport. In parentheses, only exception is if there's not a father listed on the birth certificate. Lastly, number 4, protect yourself against the $150,000 retroactive child support award. That's a huge risk. And if you get the case into court and you kind of set some little joke child support amount against yourself, certainty in child support's a lot better than the risk of 150 grand coming at you at 5 years from now. Okay, you got those top 4? I hope you do, because they're important. I would encourage you to file your case and bring your case if you're in a situation, unmarried parents, and it's going to help you. It's going to help your life. It's going to help your kid's life. So I'm going to wrap it there. I'm at 17 minutes. Didn't want to go that long to begin with, but I'm attorney Peter Olson. We're at Chicago Family Law Group. We protect the legal needs of middle-income families and protect children during times of conflict, like custody cases with unmarried parents, so that your and your kids' futures are secure. We've been doing this since 2005. Check us out, familylawchicago.com. I look forward to serving you.